Today marked the start of the 3-day state funeral of former President of Trinidad and Tobago, Professor George Maxwell Richards. Mr. Richards died last Monday after suffering a heart attack. Today's proceedings began with a military procession from Abercrombie Street to the Parliament building at the International Waterfront Complex on Ryson Road, where several well-wishers paid their respects. Marie Hull reports.
A single drum kicked off the procession on Abercrombie Street in front of Nallis, where members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force escorted the casket bearing former President Professor George Maxwell Richards. A slow march by the officers as they glided in front of the late President's casket across several streets in the capital city. Several people were out in their numbers in front of the Hall of Justice to get a glimpse of the late President's casket. And just after 9 o'clock on Monday, the body of the former president arrived at the Parliament building to lie in state. The former president's casket, draped in a national flag, was placed inside the Parliament building, surrounded by 4 vigil officers. Mr. Richards' wife, Dr. Jean Ramjohn Richards, and his daughter Maxine were among the first to pay their respects. They then took a position towards the left of the open casket to receive people coming in. Among the first was the President of the Senate and Acting President Christine Kangaloo, followed by Speaker of the House Bridget Anisette George. Just after 10 o'clock, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley arrived at the Parliament to pay respect to the late President and signed the condolence book. Chief Justice Ivor Archie followed soon after. Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar and opposition MPs were also among those paying respects. And just before noon, viewing was opened to members of the general public. Marie Hull, C News.
And during the public viewing, a few parliamentarians paid their respects as well as recounted some of their fondest memories of the former President of the Republic. Sherilyn Lewis reports.
Minister of National Security Edmund Dillon said he remembered the many snippets of advice that the former President George Maxwell Richards gave him when he was Chief of Defence Staff.
You always have an open door with President Max Richards, and one in which he gave you a certain kind of advice. He made you feel comfortable even in his own sphere. This sort of advice that he gave you to lead and to manage the force. He had a way of putting across his thoughts in that it was not insulting, it was not demeaning, it was not in orders, but you get the idea that he was trying to assist you as much as possible in managing and running the defense force.
And the Minister of Planning, Camille Robinson-Regis, noted that the country lost a great man.
An outstanding individual, not just as a president, but as a person. He certainly reflected the views of the ordinary man in the street. He made his contribution not only as president of Trinidad and Tobago, but in the oil industry and also at the University of the West Indies, where his legacy is well known. We are very saddened by his passing.
Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar remembers the former president as a teacher and mentor and shared what she wrote in the condolence book.
Well, of course we express our sadness at the loss of His Excellency, and I'll tell you what I wrote in the tribute today. He was a president to the max in every sense of the word, a great son of Trinidad and Tobago, and we are very proud of the work he did and of his achievements. So to his family, our condolences, and of course may his soul rest in peace.
And MP for St. Augustine, Prakash Ramada, had these words to comfort for the family.
We have lost a great soul. It's a generation that I wish we could replicate, and we should not just look on in history on his life and many others like him in the past, but try to emulate, because I truly believe that our heroes, having passed, their life message is one for our future. And I think that citizens must rise to the level of service, the dignity, and the sense of joie de vivre that he exercised. Because I could tell you now, even in his passing, whenever I think of him, it brings a smile to my heart. And I just hope for his family and all of those who grieve to know full well that in time grief can be replaced with joy for our life having been well lived.
Charlene Lewis, C News.
And in Tobago, Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles, Presiding Officer Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus and Chief Administrator Ray Sandy all signed a condolence book which was set up at the THA chamber.
On my own behalf and that of my families and on behalf of all the members of the Tobago House of Assembly, I wish to extend deepest condolences to the family of President George Maxwell Richards, and may his soul rest in peace.
Reflected on the life of Professor Richards and shared what she'd take away from his legacy.
President George Maxwell Richards, I think of a man of integrity, of great humility, and someone who was able to strike the balance between holding prestigious office and being an active participant in the culture. He was known as a fun-loving president, and perhaps those are the qualities that he will not just be remembered for, but personally I would like to emulate.
The book will again be opened tomorrow and the public is invited to sign it between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m.